Is that the deal? And I'd like to thank all of our sponsors. We've got Verizon, Randy Dillard, and Dominion, Eva T, Corliss Archer, and National Counseling Group, and a number of other sponsors. We want to thank you for sponsoring the breakfast. The Southside Child Development Center has done such a great job with our children. And when I think of the job that they're doing and nurturing the children and putting them on the right direction, I'm reminded of that story of the carpenter who had been working with the same employer for decades. He decided to retire and told his boss, you know, I want to retire and want to spend more time with the family. And the employer said, well, okay, we're sorry to see you leave, but can you do me one favor and just build one more house? One more house. And I said, so we did. He went and got some shoddy materials and covered up some mess that he'd made and slapped the thing together. And when he finally finished, the lawyer came over for the traditional inspection and said, you know, you've always done such a good job, I don't even need to inspect the house. As a matter of fact, for all of your years of service, he pulled the keys out of his pocket and handed the keys to the carpenter. This is your house for your years of dedicated service. The carpenter, as you can imagine, said, well, if I'd known it was going to be my house, I'd have done a better job. And so when we have the Southside Child Development Center working on our children, we're going to have to live with the results of their work. And so the better job they do, the better community we're going to have. We know that education is extremely important to our community. Global competitiveness, education is one of the key factors in our global competitiveness. We're not going to compete on wages. There are people around the world who work for pennies a day. We're not going to compete and undercut those wages. You don't have to be next to your customers anymore. If you're manufacturing something, you can deliver your packages overnight to just about anywhere in the world. You don't even have to be near your coworkers. If you can work across the hall from your coworkers, if you've got a fax machine, a cell phone, a BlackBerry, computer with a modem, internet, if you can work across the hall, you can work across the globe. And so you don't have to be near your coworkers anymore. You don't have to be in the United States to get financing. Used to be if you wanted financing, you'd have to build your plant here in the United States. Now, worldwide banking, you can put it anywhere you want. The one thing international businesses know when they move here is they can get well-educated, well-trained workers. And we are now making sure that we keep up that competitiveness. Now, we're slipping in math and science. We're going to have to fix that. But to the extent that we lose that competitive advantage, we lose our global competitiveness. We know that we have an excellent service right here. We know that those who have a good education, those communities with good education have lower, we mentioned social services, lower incidence of welfare, low incidence of crime. So the community needs a good education. And we also know that for the individual, it's a good idea to get a good education because their livelihood depends on it. The old adage, the more you learn, the more you earn, is even more important now in a high-tech, information-based economy. So we have an excellent service right here. Early childhood education is so important because when you look at your education, the early childhood basis really sets you off in the trajectory you're going to have. Third grade reading, you have to make sure this prepares you for reading. Educators tell me that reading by the third grade is so important because up to the third grade you learn to read. After the third grade you read to learn. If you can't read after the third grade, you can't learn after the third grade, and you're on a trajectory to dropping out and obviously not very much competition. We need to make sure we do all we can to support education. On the federal level, we're doing things like last year we reauthorized the Head Start program, expanded Head Start, particularly early Head Start, improved teacher qualifications, and ensured continuing parental involvement. Last year in the stimulus package, we had a lot of money in there for teachers to make sure teachers didn't get laid off, and 300,000 teachers maintained their jobs because of the stimulus package. Just recently we had a hearing, and hopefully we'll pass a bill on federal child nutrition, where we expand nutrition programs and improve standards and make sure that school lunches are as nutritious as possible. Michelle Obama is making child obesity an issue, so eating the right foods is so important. We know that there was a study that said that 75% of young people were not eligible for the military because of health problems and dropping out of school. Well, what we do right here at Southside will make the difference in making sure that we have a fit nation. We're going to be, hopefully this year, maybe early next year, reauthorizing No Child Left Behind. It served its purpose in exposing the shortcomings around the country. When you take those tests, you can't cover up the results. Some schools are not teaching the children. And the No Child Left Behind and all these tests has exposed that for what it is. It's had a lot of other problems, and we're going to try to fix those problems. One of which is an achievement gap that is still persistent. That is a civil rights violation. You can't go around saying that you're educating white children up to the 12th grade and black children up to the 10th grade without violating the principle of Brown v. Board of Education, where they said that you were denying the children of the minority race of an equal educational opportunity. The 10th grade education is not equal. And we also know that if it costs a little extra to educate everybody, then you just have to pay the bill. We went through that about 30 years ago with special education students. If it costs a little extra to educate a special education student, Betsy was on the school board, you just got to pay the bill. And so whatever it takes to make sure that everybody gets the full 12 grades out of K through 12, gets a full 12 grade education, we just have to pay the bill and eliminate the achievement gap. You also have to make sure people actually graduate from high school. We've got a lot of communities where half or more of the children are not getting through with a high school education, and if you don't at least have a high school education, you're not going to get a job. As I said, there's a high correlation between education and welfare, and education and crime. Those with a good education are much less likely to be involved in crime, so we need to make sure we invest in our young people so that we can reduce crime. We run around codifying slogans and sound bites around here, and we now lock up a higher portion of our population than any country on earth by far. We lock up people way past what the Pew Center research has concluded is actually counterproductive. That you're injecting more social pathology, rounding up that many people, locking them up, giving them criminal records. You're creating more social pathology than you're curing with the rate that we have already. And we know if we put a portion of that money up front, make sure they got the early childhood education and the after-school programs, and if they get off track a little bit, make sure they get back on track and make sure they can read, and make sure they get on the right track and stay on the right track. It's actually cheaper than maintaining what the Children's Defense Fund calls the cradle-to-prison pipeline that we have now. The Youth Promise Act that I've introduced will make those investments to get the young people on the right track and keep them on the right track. Every time they've done one of these kind of comprehensive plans, they've actually saved more money than they spent by avoiding incarceration, medical expenses for gunshot wounds, welfare related to teen pregnancy, a lot of other things you will save when you make these comprehensive investments. That's what we need to do, and that's what Southside has done so well. It's got the 3-star rating, one of only, 2 or 3 in the area with that kind of rating. So we're proud of the work that they do. They are building the foundation that we will have to live with, just like the carpenter had to live with his decisions. We're going to live with the results of Southside, and I'm delighted to say they're doing an excellent job, and we have a great future. So thank you, Southside, for all of you do, and thank you, sponsors, for supporting them.